Hello and welcome to Past Your Bedtime. My name's Bev. On today's episode I'm talking to James Peck, Managing Director of the PX Farms Group. When I first began this journey, watching the PX Farms YouTube channel fast became a favourite for me. Mixing some highly technical subjects on agronomy, machinery and arable farming methods, together with a behind-the-scenes view of running 3 large farms, might seem to most people a rather dry subject. But James's infectious laughter and dedication to creating a world-class farming operation had me hooked. Learning about duckfoot parts and controlled traffic farming weren't on the tip of my tongue as I wandered around the tractor shows. But luckily for me, I'd subscribed to the channel just as James and his team were putting the finishing touches to their open day. And on one of the hottest days of the summer, I, along with 3,000 other interested parties, descended on Scotland Farm in Cambridgeshire to see and hear from some of the best in the business when it comes to the farming sector. I'm hugely grateful to James for inviting me back down to the farm, having asked if he'd like to have a chat. And at the risk of fangirling, I did feel I was meeting one of farming's superstars. What you're about to hear is only half of what we talked about, as afterwards he set about interviewing me. Thanks again, James. I had a fabulous time. We kicked off by discussing what farming in its widest sense means to James and how it all began.
I think what people misrepresent is actually how big the industry is and the perception of the industry, in the sense that, if you say about farming, immediately someone thinks it's a man on a tractor.
Yeah.
That's farming. Or somebody looking at cows, when the reality is that's actually a relatively small proportion of farming when you look at the subsidiary industries around the outside, which are involved, like Trinidad, where we were this weekend. They're part of farming, because if you don't make the nitrogen, as we ascertain, 70% of the world dies. It's as crude as that. But they would probably not count themselves as farming. They would count themselves as industry or petrochemical almost. So I think actually what is farming is for me is a really interesting question. And the tire guy, the guys doing concrete and everything, it's interesting what percentage of their business relates to farms.
Yeah.
A lot of them quite a high percentage. But they won't get featured or counted at government level.
Numbers, yeah.
Which I think's a shame. They might get counted as construction, but actually their portfolio of business or their income is derived out of farming.
Mm-hmm. So it leads me on to what you see as farming and what you're doing here.
Yeah.
I've got some questions, and I have a funny feeling we're not going to stick to any of those questions that I'd previously.
I don't stick to anything.
No. So I'm not even opening my notebook at this point. But
I was a nightmare at school. Because I was just always going off somewhere else in my mind, yeah.
I am actually finding a lot of people in farming are of a type who don't fit the mould.
Yeah.
Who are outliers, or if you want to say on the spectrum, that sounds derogatory, but I don't mean
I
it
don't
to be.
like that.
It does. It is kind of we need to find a different way to neurodiverse. There you go.
Yeah.
So, but people who have a curiosity for life and for solving problems, or engineering.
Farming effectively is either logistics, being in the place at the right time, and secondly is solving problems, because farming is a non-stop problem-solving situation, because every day, by without design, there's something not going according to plan.
Yeah.
And that's why I find the whole robotics thing quite interesting, because the reality is soil doesn't behave as it did last year, and etc. So that's where the human being and the skill of the human comes in.
So how did it? What I was going to ask you, the traditional sort of questions, how it all began. Did you always know that agriculture, farming was going to be your career path?
Yeah, well, interestingly, I was my first word was tractor, which is surprising because it's sort of not a simple word in that sense as a baby. But I think from the moment I was born, I was the only grandson or grandchild that was male on this side of the family. So of course it was.
So family farm.
Yeah, I was programmed that I was going to be a farmer. And so everything about my life, I was surrounded by farming in some context, whether it was with grandparents or father or friends of the family, etc. You become immersed in it, and then the conversations you listen to around the table and etc. in the basis, in a lot of senses, the office and the house is the same thing. And so you're immersed in the conversation of farming. And of course, then the activities are surrounded around, for hobbies, you could argue, are surrounded around farming, aren't they? Whether it's shooting or horses. I mean, particularly my younger life, it was hunting. My grandfather on my mother's side was big into hunting, so I used to go hunting with him at least once a week. And I said the other day on a video, the school had something in the charter where I was allowed to go hunting on a Monday. I don't think the date was specific, but I was allowed to go once a week without penalty. So I used to go on a Monday with him because that was the day he ran that country. But my mother took me at 15 to Sandhurst because she wanted me to go in the army. She couldn't control me, I think, so she decided that the best thing for me was to go in the army. So I suspect that actually, if it hadn't have been farming I went into, I suspect I'd have ended up going into the military of some sort. But it quickly became apparent, even at 15 at Sandhurst, I couldn't apply for major from day one. So that would have been a stumbling block.
So you decided they weren't right for you rather than the other way around?
I'm not sure that they were given the choice, but I think they'd have come to that conclusion fairly quickly. Yeah. But so I went off. I was at boarding school majority of my school life, and then I went then to a college down in Lackham in Wiltshire, which is a wonderful college. It was a sort of engineering of agriculture as well as ag. So I got a good broad brush of farming there, and then I picked up a lot of practical certificates. And then I went to Bristol for 2 years then after, and did sort of crop management. So both colleges were completely different, actually, in terms of interest and in terms of friends and in terms of, what I got out of them. So I did 5 years in the end, and I worked in Hungary, assistant manager there. Then I went to Australia driving combines. I also worked on a dairy farm and milking cows in Gloucestershire. And then I came back to the family farm in 99. I came back prematurely early, actually. I fell off a motorbike in Skipper's Canyon, New Zealand, and put a hole in my knee.
Right.
So my travelling career has sort of got caught short. So I came back and
sorted that out.
Yeah, sorted that out. Then got stuck into farming at home. And then there was massive change in the industry at that point. We went from, while I was at college, £180 a tonne, down to suddenly sub 60. And
it's the late 90s.
Yeah, and the culture of that £60 changed dramatically, effectively what this farm was then, a 700-acre farm with probably 3 or 4 people on it, to effectively going to a 1,600-acre farm with 1 person, then going up to 2,000 acres. So, I mean, the speed of change in terms of number of machinery and the number of people on it in that very small window between, I suppose, 98 up to about, I suspect, somewhere in the region of about 2002, there was a massive change in arable crops, which I enjoyed immensely because, of course, I've always enjoyed machinery. So it gave me the opportunity to sell machinery and buy new machinery.
Yeah.
And change the style of the farming. We were plough-based business, and we went from plough-based to sort of effectively min-till or eco-till, as it was called then. And enabled us to take on more land with effectively less people and change the cost structure. We're now, I think, back in not a dissimilar time, but probably in a more frightening time now, because we would have made a handful of thousands of pounds then, but we weren't losing money. Whereas, of course, now the opportunity to lose huge, vast amounts of money is now here because of the liability and the cost of farming is so much different.
Yeah.
I mean, it was £60 a tractor. Well, 54,000 was the first one I bought. It was an MX270. And so I bought that, and it was 1999 model. And it was 54,000. And I remember that, we were selling, of course, old track Marshalls and old smaller tractors that effectively I managed to sell the machinery at that time while there was still a high premium for second hand and buy a whole new fleet of machinery without spending any money, just purely on what I sold. And my father was pretty frugal on machinery. I mean, he would buy second hand machinery as a rule, wouldn't buy new. But there was plentiful of it. There was a lot of it. And I used to call it the what if machinery. Because I went round with him in the beginning. and looked at everything, and we walked up and down the hedgerows and the yard and wherever else it was kept. And I say, well, what is that? And he'd say, I don't know, Bomford Diner Drive, 5 metres. And there was 2 of them, for example. Dreadful invention. And if he'd spent enough time on blocking them underneath when he got in a bit of a wet hole, he didn't fall in love with that machine. And I said, right, we'll get rid of that. And his next sentence always started with, well, what if? What if, we get a dry time, or what if we get a wet time? So I nicknamed it the what if machinery, because there was always a justification to keep everything. And in fact, he was very good. He allowed me to sell it all, and we sold it all, and we changed the farming basically to the model, not dissimilar to what we're on now. Just the scale of the machinery is different now to what it was then, but actually it's not dissimilar.
Yeah.
So I suppose I've now been on this style of farming for 25 years. So it's just got wider.
And it's been so here's a novice question. Why is it, or how can it be viable for you to invest in something like a combine harvester that only sees any action for a period of about 4 to 6 weeks every year?
Yeah.
How do you make that work?
It's the volume of crops it can bring in a short period of time, as long as you've got the available logistics. The price of it and the term that you use is fairly immaterial, in the sense that we're bringing in, I don't know, let's just pretend if we're going to bring 20,000 tonne of wheat in, and that wheat's worth £200 a tonne, for example, you've got 4 million tonne there. So the combine, that's just one crop.
Right.
So the reality is that that I've got 4 combines, and they're going to bring in probably about somewhere like 38,000 tonnes, something like that. And obviously there's different values of those crops accordingly. And then you're not writing that value off in 1 year. You're going to write that off maybe over 7 years.
Yeah.
Or in my instance, I'm doing it over 4, but then I'd have effectively a balloon payment, which mimics its resale value. But I still retain a 10% deposit. So that's how I made that work.
Right.
Every farmer would hope that the machinery was less money, for obvious reasons, because it translates into more profit at the farm end. I think that the biggest crime potentially is that we have, you could argue, one hand, no fault of our own. On the other hand, it is our fault. We have become hugely efficient in world farming to the point that the world produce price is so cheap because we've allowed it to be so cheap from our level of efficiency. So what's happened is we've maintained a price that shouldn't be dissimilar to my grandfather's time, but we have the costs have all risen. So we have become more efficient in scale terms as a rule to spread the costs to the benefit of everybody else. And unfortunately, that benefit isn't necessarily spreading down to the farm, because it's all being absorbed elsewhere.
So elsewhere in the supply chain.
Yeah, it's our own success that we're punishing ourselves.
In that the way. So we're here on budget day, and thank you for that, because I figured you'd be tied up thinking about that, as everybody is.
I try not to think about Rachel Reeves.
So we all.
My goodness, how do these people end up in these positions? My goodness.
As the Blakey brothers said on the first episode, when you look at the front bench, that's the best we've got in this country. Is that the best we've got?
I mean, it's extraordinary.
And what are the options if we haven't got those ones? Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
But obviously we don't know what that'll be this afternoon. We don't know what that's going to bring.
Yeah.
But what do you hope for the sector, or for just PX Farms?
I think there's some big fundamental problems with this Labour government, but not only Labour. I think that we mustn't forget that the Conservatives as well, which I would be historically have been a Conservative voter, and the family would have all been historical voters of Conservatives. But, mustn't forget that actually they have caused the rot in agriculture. The Labour have come in and made it a lot worse. But of course, BPS, for example, which got took away, but Scotland has still got it. I was up there last week giving some talks. They're still getting it. We're not getting it here. So we've got France, which is getting it, Scotland, which is getting it. So we're sat in the middle, one for a better word, with no payments. That was the Conservatives who did that. Labour have come in, and it's extraordinary that they're concept must be within closed doors. They must kill all forms of entrepreneurship, and everything's to be taxed to the point that you're almost at a level where there must be a lot of people whose lifestyles could be cheaper. They must be sitting there thinking, I don't want to employ as many people now. I'm going to reduce the number of people I employ. They keep putting up minimum wage. They're now going to make it impossible to get rid of people effectively if they don't work out in the first year, etc.
Speech to the CBI.
And I think there's more reasons at the moment for people not to run their own businesses and for them not to try and push on.
Wow.
And I would say at least 70% of my friends are looking at or have already de-investing out of the UK, moving their money abroad, and also looking at relocating. I think that's very sad. And, we look at, within this business, what do we look at? Well, when they put up the national insurance and the national minimum wage, we made a conscious decision that actually we were going to have to look at the number of people we employed, and that we are 4 people less than we were a year ago. And 3 of those, one retired, second one was over retirement age, and that would have just carried on, but actually with these increased costs, that was time to sit down and talk about that. The other one was the opposite end of the spectrum, was a trainee, which you could argue, I would argue, you probably don't get a lot of benefit out of a trainee. You are doing some good for them and also for society by training people.
Yeah. And
there's a cost in doing that. Well, they then changed the payment structure in which they were going to be rewarded on, etc. So that person went off to do another job elsewhere. So the reaction, in my mind, is as soon as the government does this, instead of encouraging people to employ people and reduce the amount of people who are currently not at work, they're putting things in place where people are thinking, actually, I'd rather take that money and I'd rather reinvest that in some kind of automation, or maybe I outsource that role, or I stop doing it. They're really your 3 choices. And I think that employing people is a luxury, and it is a privilege. And if you're going to put so many things in people's way, people actually would rather do without than have the hassle.
Yeah. Not everyone's out doing it for altruistic reasons. They also have to think about how complex it is.
Yeah, and then you've got things like this inheritance tax. I mean, we don't want to spend a lot of time on that because that's devastating. And I've just brought my father and sister out, so now I'm the problem. My father's out. I'm the problem now with the inheritance tax for my 3 children.
Yeah.
So I've got to focus on that. We're trying to do we're approaching the 9th month of maybe 10 months now of doing the life insurance policy. I've had another letter. I tried Aviva, just wasn't getting on very well with Aviva, which is really disappointing. I'm now legal in general. I sent another letter this morning asking some ridiculous questions. I mean, the whole system of getting life insurance, what should be relatively straightforward, is filled with issues.
Right.
And I still, as I said, I'm heading towards the 10th month. I haven't got it solved. So currently, I don't have the level of protection I need by April. And it does put you in a mindset when you've got younger children that aren't in the business. You do question, actually, is this all worth it? I'll be approaching 50 next June, and I'll be thinking to myself, well, hold on a second. I've had 30 years of running like a lunatic. I'm better to do something else.
Yeah.
Join the other 70%, go and sit in the hot country. I do like the sun. I have these thoughts about half a day, and I seem to get over myself, and I'm back on it, flat out again.
Yeah.
But I do think that the government at the moment is irresponsible in the message they're sending to people and businesses.
Yeah.
And I do think there'll be a lag, but suddenly we'll be in a position maybe in 3 or 4 years' time where unfortunately we are killing industry and people will start to have different lifestyles. I sat on a plane on Saturday coming back from Trinidad, and there was a doctor, and I was talking to him for an hour or so on the flight, and he is penalised with his salary over certain thresholds. So he is now started to go part-time. so that he is not penalised, because he was at the point that he was going backwards. So you've got a highly trained individual
Yeah.
that now is being incentivised not to work.
Yeah.
Not because he doesn't want to, but he doesn't see the reward it any longer.
It's kind of
And the only reason for that was government and the taxation. So effectively, I think they are by default killing growth.
Yeah. It's the equivalent of people not wanting to work full time because they won't receive the benefits. They work more than, whatever, 16 hours a week.
A lot of people's lifestyles are cheaper now than what they would have been. I mean, when I was at college, I used to go to the pub nearly every day, at college. And so it cost a lot of money to drink beer and smoke cigarettes and all that. And
Still does.
drive fast cars and run around chasing young ladies around the bar and all that. Yeah. So I had to work quite hard at weekends to earn money delivering logs and things, so I could go back and carry on that cycle. And as I said, I did it for 5 years, but
It's good training.
good training, yeah. And nowadays, a lot of people's hobbies are a lot cheaper, in the sense that they might have Netflix or something like that, but they're not aspiring to go and drink 8 pints and then go and have a curry and whatever else. So actually, they're not spending the volume of money. Well, on that basis, minimum wage is quite high. So the number of hours they might then choose to work is going to be lower.
Yeah, a lot of macro factors.
Yeah.
I know we're pressed for time, so one of the themes when you held the open day back in June, or the overall theme, I think, was the positivity in farming.
Yeah.
I certainly got that vibe. And I do want to say, as I came in here today, it was lovely to be reminded of it. I mean, that was a stinking hot day.
Yeah.
But my...
We were lucky with the weather. I thought it was going to rain.
I know, but my overarching impression from it when I came in was how pristine.
Thank you.
It's all right.
Look, carry on.
I'll edit.
No, that's right.
Was it the word pristine?
It wasn't president. It was the old grey went down the wrong hole. Sorry.
The site as you come in is it's like driving onto a country club, or it's, and everywhere is spotless. It's like an F1 factory. Is that a trait of you personally? Is it part of the overall efficiency, sort of tidy business, tidy mind kind of thing?
Tree always rots from the top down.
Right.
Or the head of the fish stinks.
Yeah.
This comes from me.
Yeah.
I think there's several reasons why you're in business. Some can be as cold as I just want to make as much money as I possibly can. Some can be legacy born. Some can be a standard. I'm very focused on the standard. If I'm going to do something, I want to do it well. I want it to be the best that we can do, even at the point that some of the work we might do in terms of farming, because of the efficiency of the output of the field, may be a detriment in terms of income. But if that, long as that standard is correct, it does, in my view, I think it pays dividends in the long run. If you micro-analyse things, you'd say, for example, having all your lorries green and then having them sign written, there's a £2,000 or £3,000 cost, which you could do without, times 12 lorries, etc. You could look at it like that and say, don't do that, it's a waste of money. But I think brand does matter. I think there's a value in the brand, not just for me, but the people who work in the business and people we farm for or do work for, and outside perception.
Yeah.
We want the standard of farming to be very high. We're proud of what we do. I think if it was all about money, for example, the best thing for me to do would be to sell. Take the money and go to south of France and have a great life. But instilling the standard across the business takes time, and you get good people, it attracts good people, in my opinion, and those good people then want to also keep to that standard.
Be part of it.
You get the odd stinker,
Yeah.
and you have to educate them. But it's not just the yard; it's everything. It's the standard of the fields, it's the standard of the crops we grow, how you keep the machinery, the lorries. It's hard work. It's a discipline. It's not dissimilar to being in the army. In that
I was going to say, perhaps your military career missed out.
Buff boobs.
So, is there another open day plan for next year?
Not next year. It's because I want to make sure it's always relevant. I don't want it to be something which is just because it's a timetable. I want to make sure that we can have the right speakers, the right people, the right information, and deliver a benefit to the wider farming industry and the public, because I love the industry and I want to get the message across about what the industry is truly like, because I think a lot of people, if they saw the industry, I think Clarkson's opened the eyes of a lot of people. Actually, it's fantastic. There's a huge amount of humour in it, which nobody's ever seen before, because whenever you generally see a farmer who's complaining about something.
There's a gallows humour.
Yeah, I think it's a nervousness that they don't know how to talk to non-farmers, so they talk about what's not right because they're too frightened that if they're making money, for example, they don't want anyone to think they're making money, so they pretend that, rather than celebrating the fact that they've had a good year. So I wanted to instill that there is a future in farming, not just for people who work here, but also my up-and-coming children, so that this is then a generational business. And I think that if we continue on the path of constantly telling people how awful it is, you will, of course, remove people who want to come into the industry, be part of it. And we will then forever have a problem recruiting people to come and work in it, where actually most people who come into the farming don't leave. So the recruitment in sense of retention is extraordinary. Most people, once they do it, they love it, they don't leave. Very few people do. And even people who do go off and go and chase an extra pounds an hour, to go work on the diggers or whatever it is, as an example, they pine to go back to farming. Because I think the one thing that's exciting about farming is it's never the same. No 2 days are the same. And no 2 seasons are the same. And most of the problems, interestingly, if you said to me, what is your number one problem with farming? Is it the price? No. It is government intervention. Interfering.
Overreach.
That would be my number one. If we could prevent that, the industry would restructure, etc. A lot of the reasons why farms are structured in the way they are is might be tax orientated, etc. It's quite a controlled industry, surprisingly. Even to the fact that when you can and can't cut a hedge. I mean, it's extraordinary. What do you think about that? Do you think that's extraordinary? Yeah, you own a hedge, but somebody in a garden go and cut it whenever they want. But a farmer can't. I'm always amazed by that.
Blown away. Well, that's good. So there wouldn't be an open day next year. What was the driver, just to finish off? What was the driver on it?
Well, I haven't doing the open day.
For this year as
well.
I know you only gave yourself like 6 months to do it, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it was even that, but we did the YouTube, and we were surprised, sort of showing what we do in terms of our version of farming, and then also wanted to do wider things. Hence why I wanted to show fertilizer being made, because I don't think most people would realise it was made in Trinidad, for example, out of natural gas, and etc. Wanted to make sure I did stuff like that, which sort of showed some depth to what we were doing. And I kept being asked on the channel, would you do an open day? And I sort of was dismissing it at first, and Tom, the cameraman, kept saying, I think you ought to do this, I think it'll be good. I said, well, I know he's going to come, Tom, crying out loud. And I said, all right, we'll do it. Anyway, I was a bit really apprehensive about it, because of course you are, by definition, you are opening up your home and you don't want it to effectively fail. But we had 3,100 people come in total, 2,000 just shy in the conference, and then the rest came in the afternoon. And seeing that many people in the yard, I shook nearly everybody's hand, I think, I went on stage, my children were sitting in the front row, and I think I remember that for the rest of my life. Is they're sitting in there going, what is going on here? Because they don't know the farm, because I've got this wall from the house, and they don't go in the farm for safety reasons. They don't know it. And their version of me farming will be either sat in the office or going out in the car to look at something which they'd find terribly boring. And they sat there and they were looking up and they were looking around the room with my mother, and they were just completely blown away. And when I walked on the stage, I looked down and there was that moment where, I did a gulp. And, whenever you think about farming and you get people like that together who are all passionate and wanting farming to do well, my goodness, there's an energy. There's a real energy in farming. I mean, that's what I think there's humour, and there's a real energy, and there's a real can-do attitude worldwide. And I think that's what I love about farming the most, is the is the fact that however big are the challenges thrown at us, something in farming, primal, makes us want to beat it and wants to make us to achieve. And that actually, job satisfaction and the fact that no day is the same is really powerful and what keeps us doing it.
Excellent. Thank you. Fascinating stuff, James. I think we will wrap that up then. Thanks so much.
Everybody got started.
No, I know you have, but your time is precious, and
And
yeah,
in my
I
own
don't wanna
mind.
keep doing that.
You sure?
Yeah. Thank you. I'll do a tidy.
Go on, what are your questions? Tell me.
Okay, now. Right, what were they? They were all very.
We went off on a...
They were very straight. Thank you for going off at a tangent. So it was. I did start with what was it obvious that farming is going to be your career? That I was going to ask you about large scale farming. What's the day-to-day reality? But you kind of talked around that anyway. Running a tight ship. The thing that struck me about when I came to the farm was the scale and the pristine nature, at which point you spat your tea out. Is it about
I should keep that on there because that's actually quite funny. Sort of half goes to place because people mind that for me.
I do, yeah. Well, yeah, I'll have my own outtakes at some point during this. You're seen as one of the more innovative farm leaders. What tech has changed your world most? Now, I think I know the answer to that with precision farming.
Yeah.
Yes. But
Control traffic.
the audience wouldn't know. Future of farming, what's the PX farm look like in the future? Talking about where it's headed and why it is where it is.
I could talk about that. Mm-hmm. Do you want to talk about it?
What's that?
Scale and about the future.
Have you got time? You got time?
Yeah, I think so.
Budget starts at 12:30. I presume that's your next pressing engagement.
No, you're all right. My next one's 2:00.
Is it?
Yeah, I can answer that.
Okay. So PX Farms covers more than 5,000 hectares. Yeah, 12,000 acres.
Yeah.
So for listeners that don't know large-scale farming, what's the day-to-day reality of that?
I think in crude terms, if when I first came back to the family farm, and obviously there would have been, when I came back, there would have been 3 generations involved in it, and then it would have been slightly split into cousins and things, because it was in a trust and things. Now this would be dissimilar to a lot of families where actually there would be a lot of people effectively driving some kind of an income, even if it's in dividends off.
Yeah.
Which also means that there's a level of control, which can actually hinder the future. My father, in particular, is quite a visionary in a sense that he allowed me, when I came back, to sort of do my own thing, one for a better word. It's sort of a good way of putting it, in the sense that he said to me in 2003, right, I don't want to farm anymore. I'm not going to let you have the farm, but you can either go work for somebody else, or you can come up with an idea of sort of contract farming the farm, etc. So that's what I did. So PX Farms was born. And the basis of PX Farms was that I wanted to farm for other people, other landowners. And the reason for that was I wanted to build a scale business. And the motivation behind the scale business was that the family farm at that time was 740 acres. When my father took out his income, there was nothing left for me other than potentially being a tractor driver's wage. So, he was a young farmer. I'm 49, he's 75. So at that time, the guy's 53 or whatever it was. So he's not like looking to die at that point. Mm-hmm. So of course my prospects of my life effectively would be waiting for him to die, which would be potentially when I was 60, if you see what I mean, or if not longer. He's probably coughing right now, thinking he's not going to die then. But anyway, what could I do outside of farming that would produce an income, or what could I do within farming? So I sort of explored that, and I was always motivated by scale. I've always loved big machinery, big farming, and building a scale business. I'm tremendously motivated by it. I think about it all day long. I find it really exhilarating and exciting. 4 combines lined up instead of 1 combine, for example. I mean, I struggled on my own in the early days, and it was just me, then it was 2 of us, etc. And I remember the struggles and the fight of that. And then I look at now the camaraderie of a big team, and the pure really enjoyment of walking into the workshop at 7:15 in the morning, and we're all circled like together, and taking the mickey out of each other, and the fun. And actually, you get fun into things. Everything seems quite simple to solve, and certainly when you've got lots of people. So I started to build a business, and of course the UK government at that time was always telling farmers to diversify and build scale. That was effectively what we've been told to do for 20 plus years. So I've done that, and I truly believe that going forward, for doubling the area I currently farm now is the right thing to do, because scale for me has brought me so many new opportunities. In terms of the fact that the lorry business has come on the back of the requirement to move grain from further away farms. The grain storage has come about because then I needed a central location to put the grain in for building a scale business, the quantity of grain that was coming off the fields. And then have a building team now to build houses for the extra staff and to build the grain stores.
Yeah.
And then I have a diversity team, Simon, who's letting all the buildings out, which I don't use for agriculture because they're too small for agriculture. So I then get to build new buildings. I let out the old ones. The income on those is far greater than what the farm could ever have generated doing it. And so it's all centered around farming. But for me, scale has brought all of these opportunities. And as with scale, I mean, interestingly, there are a lot of savings in scale in terms, but there are also some costs that come along, which catch you by surprise. But one of the things I would say that scale does do, which people probably don't often talk about, is if we were still 740 acres, for example, and it was just me here, my ability to do nothing would be there. Once you employ a small army and you create a super tanker, you can't just suddenly say, well, I'm going to stop today, because the reality is they're all turning up tomorrow morning and they're all expected to be paid at the end of the month, and all the other costs keep coming. So once you get on that tread wagon, I've got friends who often say, James, I think I might want to do what you do. And I often look at what they're doing. I said, you've got to be really careful, because once you start this, you cannot get off this. You have to keep going.
Yeah.
So, but I love it. You have to be totally motivated by it. You have to really love scale and spring out the bed. And all I ever think about every day is the next bit of land, where it's coming from. And my cousin always teases me on my gravestone. He's going to chisel on, but Michael, what we need is a bit more land. Because I truly believe that all problems can be resolved with more land. Where it's a distraction of whatever the main problem is at the time, of the fact that I'm engrossed in the new land and getting it right and doing the work on it. But yeah, so my model of growth for me in the future is the direction we're going to go in. I think for direction of the family, I think it's the right thing, because if I stayed at the 740 acres and I just was working effectively from a father, I don't think I know I wouldn't be able to privately educate children. I wouldn't be able to do what I've done. And I would be waiting for father horribly to die. And whereas now I've managed to find a way to buy him out of the original family farm. So I now own the family farm, haven't inherited it. Yeah. And my sister's taken care of, and she's early 40s, and she's now living her own life and got her own little farm in Wales. So actually that's worked out tremendously well for everybody, and we all get on.
Yeah.
There's no fallout, which I think is, anybody in a family will know. Divvying up assets, not falling out, is a skill. And we've done that. And then I've now got 3 children, 3 girls. So I have to make sure the business is big enough to be able to allow them to come in to the business if they choose to. And then make it big enough that at the point that it has to get separated, it doesn't kill the overall main machine.
Yeah.
So that's my current challenge. So I am effectively making all my own problems, because if I hadn't had any children, I wouldn't have that problem. And if I didn't have 3, I wouldn't have that trouble. So, so I actually make all of my own problems.
It's all that succession planning.
Yeah.
You mentioned Michael. How is cousin Michael?
Yeah, it's good.
I haven't seen him lately.
No, he's in hiding. He's in hiding.
Okay,
but he's like the camera shy.
Yeah.
But no, he's been brilliant. No, he's on good form, and he's doing well. And he's a for me, when I think about the people I have in this business, I've got some amazing people, and some of them family. Michael obviously being family, and there's a real skill actually in family working together. And there's some of the other people, who work in the business. They become almost an extended family. I know people talk about that as a bit of a cheesy thing to say, but actually there is a lot of truth in it. And I would say that there's probably a good 70-80% of them would never leave. And then there are some you can't you can't do anything about, because they just either don't get it, or they're always, influenced like magpies somewhere else. But,
Yeah.
and that, I think that one of the things that I probably enjoy the most about this business is the fact that we employ a lot of people, and I think truly we're making a difference to the community in the fact that not just we employ a lot of people, because every person, that's a representation of 4, so that's 200 people in my sense, is that actually we're putting children in schools, indirectly. We're converting buildings which are then being used for other uses outside farming, and then within the farms we'd have over 600 people now which would be engaged, which would be office lets, which would be houses, etc.
Yeah.
Well, that's 600 people in amongst the community now, which are driven off the back of this farm and the diversification and growing of the farm.
Yeah.
That, I think, for me, if I was to look at my legacy, what have I achieved, I would say that that's got to be one of them.
Excellent. Thank you. We're going to finish again, second time around.
Right.
I might keep this finished
Apologies.
in the edit. No, it's all right. Thank you, James. It's lovely talking to you.
How's that? You happy?
Thank you. Yes. Lovely.
Thanks again to James and the team down at PX Farms. You can follow them on YouTube and Spotify. I'll post links in the show notes. And you may have noticed I've now moved to weekly episodes. So if you haven't already done so, please subscribe on either YouTube, Spotify or Apple so as not to miss an episode. I'd also love to hear from you if you have any requests for me, if you'd like me to interview someone you're interested in, or on an area of farming I haven't yet covered. Drop a comment in the feed or email me at info@pasture-bedtime.co.uk. Thanks for listening, and if it is past your bedtime, well, perhaps it's time to turn in. Until next time.
Yes.